guys, welcome back to another episode of Pages of Chelsea. Today is Vlogmas 5. Woo! I've made it 5 days of doing content. I am so proud of myself. But let's go ahead and get into this and pull from our handy dandy bag. Okay, let's do this. Oh my God, go away. Ooh. Okay. We are going to be discussing Betrayed. This is HON, so this is House of Night, Book 2. So, let's get started. Okay, let's discuss this book. First, actually, before we get started, let's do a nail check. They are officially all gone. That didn't last anything. Today is the 5th, and I got put my nails on the last day of November. So, didn't even last a whole 7 days. So that sucks, but it is what it is. But let's discuss this book. That was kind of a running side joke that we had going for this first week of Vlogmas. I'm so excited. Okay, anyway. Betrayed. Cover is going to be here. This is a YA book. I would consider a YA book. A young adult book. I think it is age appropriate for high schoolers. I also think it's fine for adults too. There is little to no spice in this series as a whole. So that means maybe off the top of my dome, no more than 1 or 2 scenes in the whole book. But this book takes place. Let me just set the stage for the House of Night series. It is by the Cast family. And I think it's mom and daughter, PC Cast and Kristen Cast. I think it's mother and daughter. But basically, they create this world for a vampire academia universe. Which this was actually the first series I ever read. In general, which I know you're like, what? Yeah, I didn't read Harry Potter, didn't read none of that stuff. Because I like the movies. So this was the first series I read. And this is actually the series that made me fall in love with vampires. That wasn't like Twilight. They actually had special abilities. There was a reason they became vampires. Like the whole ecosystem. And this is a very female forward, female empowered, female run the world, female super, like the females run it in this. So basically the House of Night, how this is set up is in this universe, everybody is born a human. And when you turn 15, you are selected by the goddess of vampires. And basically you not wake up, it kind of just appears. You get a mark on your forehead. And depending what that mark is, tells your affinity. And it's kind of like a tattoo that you can't get rid of. And then you have a certain number of days to go to the House of Night, which is a campus. You go to the closest one. And once you're on the grounds of the school, then you start learning how to be a vampire, what that means, how to be a fledgling, which is their baby vampire. You start learning about the goddess of vampires, the different kind of powers, the affinities. You meet other people that are just as new to this as you are, so it's not a very frightening situation. And you know what it kind of gives me? It kind of gives me Vampire Academy. Kind of, except everybody's all human. But if you read Vampire Academy, you kind of can picture it in your head until you read the book. But this one is the second book, so after, of course, there is some kind of turmoil at the school in the first one. I don't want to spoil it in case I accidentally draw it. So, some kind of turmoil, they succeed. But then the second book is more about learning to lean on your friends, not feeling guilty that you always need them. It's also about relationships with boys. It's also about just because the first boy that you fall for doesn't mean that is always the right boy. It's also about trusting your instincts. It's also about self-doubt. It's a very great coming to age series, and this one dives more into the actual day-to-day at the House of Night School. A few things about why I like this book. The first one is it takes place in Oklahoma. I believe it takes place in Oklahoma. I'm pretty sure it takes place in Oklahoma. Like 99% sure. Which is fine. I'm a Texas girl, so that's very close to me. So I'm like, oh, cool. And most of these books, sometimes they take place in like New York or Las Vegas or, you know, like a big city. And this doesn't. And it kind of, the Southern girl in me kind of is like, oh, okay. And then the second reason I really like this book is because they also weave indigenous Native Americans stories into this about how they're connected to the goddess of vampire, how she goes by something else in their world, and the Native Americans within this universe, like how they've like, oh yeah, we've heard of her, or we call her something else, but that's the same thing. Actually, there's some more books in this universe, and I'm not talking about it. I kind of want to go back and read it. So I didn't read because they weren't out when I first started this as a teenager. But now I'm like, ooh, this is bringing up old feelings and memories just reviewing this book. But I like that one because it takes place in like a realistic small town southern state, and also the Native American aspect of it. And it also goes into this book. I'm sorry, y'all. This book also goes into the fact of like found family. This is probably the first series / book where found family is. I didn't know that's what that was when I was reading, because all of these new terminologies, y'all, I'm still learning. But that's definitely a found family situation, and I think I gravitate towards a found family. It's also, they talk about giving second chances to her mother and her stepfather. And it also just reminds you that sometimes you cut people off because you have to. And as an adult, that's something I feel like a lot of us millennials struggle with sometimes. We're getting better, but I feel like that's what we struggle with. In this book, her tattoo grows. She gets more power. She finds out, you know, why she's picked for certain things. It also shows how teenagers deal with loss. So, loss of a friend. And also, you can trust people that you necessarily don't think you can trust. So, it's just a great book, guys. It's a great book. The series is great. It's not the cliche vampires. I don't feel like it is. I've read a lot of vampire books because I was in high school when Twilight came out, and Vampire Diaries and all of that stuff. So that's kind of baked into my DNA of entertainment. Actually, I caught myself trying to rewatch Vampire Diaries this week. I may make my husband watch it because he's never seen it, and it's on Peacock. Side note. I might make him do that today, actually, when he gets off from work. But yeah, it's a great book. You should read it. It's not too crazy. It's very beautifully written, and the cover does a great job. All the covers do a great job of painting this beautiful world. It's not a scary vampire book. It just paints it very well. And this is a book that's gotten me into academia. I love a good academia novel because of this series. And I know, ma'am, you're in your 30s. And I'm like, I know. But I also didn't go to boarding school. I went off to university for 1 year. So I kind of, it's kind of like something I'm longing for, but I really can't do in my 30s because that would just be weird. So I love a good academia book. And paranormal always speaks to my heart. I grew up on X-Files, In the Sanctuary, Warehouse 13, and Eureka, and all of that stuff. And you're like, dang, girl, you do like fantasy. I do. So it's just a good book. I recommend you read it. That's really it, without giving too much away for the other series or the first book. but I would definitely start with the first one. The first one is House of Night, marked, and you can pretty much, they have it on Audible and they have it on KU. Now, I did not finish the series because not all the books were on KU when I read this in like April, May, because it's a lot of books. It's like 7 books, and then there's some prequels and some other books within the universe. And I didn't because they wasn't on KU, and I tried listening to book 5 or 6. I think it was 5, and I couldn't get with the narrators because they changed from the last book to that book, so I had to stop because the narrators were not good. I didn't have Hoopla at that moment. I did have Hoopla, I'm sorry, because that's where I tried to listen to it and I didn't like the narration. These books are old because I graduated, I'll just tell you guys, in 2011, and these books were out before then, so you can pretty much find these at any library. They're around, so definitely take a look at those books. This is a very short review, and I want to appreciate you for sticking with me for 5 days and going over the books. So far we have 1, we have 2. We've discussed 2 historical fictions, 1 smut, because this is really what this was, 1 smut book. We've talked about 1 thriller / mystery book and 1 fantasy book. So 5 days, and we still have 20 more, guys. There's 20 more books that we get to talk about. So I appreciate you for coming along. If you're watching this after Bookmas is over, stay tuned. I will plan on doing these for many more years to come. And I want you guys to have a good day, pick up a book, and enjoy this holiday season. Bye, guys.